My name is Paolo Nespoli, an astronaut of the European Space Agency. I'm currently orbiting the Earth at a speed of 28,000 kilometers per hour on board the International Space Station. There I am, now, here, working inside the European Laboratory Columbus, pretty well connected, and wishing all the best to the participants of publica 2011 in Berlin. Looking forward to seeing you on Twitter at @astro_Paolo. Ciao!
Oh, sorry.
Who's
okay.
Oh. Any particular order? I'm going to take this one. Okay. Hello, and welcome. You just saw Paolo, who's sitting next to me, and he was greeting Republica 2011 participants from space, and now we have him back they're back here with us on Earth. And he's also with us for this panel, which is called Tweeting from Space for the Digital Public. And a warm welcome to you, and thanks for coming. Thanks for joining us. We'll get, I'd like to do the introduction now. I get back to Paolo in a minute. I do not want to break the rule of introducing our women first. And to the far left, that's Samantha Cristoforetti.
Hello.
She's a pilot, she's an aerospace engineer, and she's a European astronaut of Italian nationality. She joined the European Space Agency, ESA, with the astronaut class of 2009. And believe it or not, she was selected as one of 6 new astronauts among 8,413 applicants. And Samantha is here not just because she's an astronaut, but also because, to my opinion, she's the most active tweeting and blogging astronauts. Her colleagues do so as well. But the intensity with which Samantha does it, we will talk about that in a minute. Next is my dear colleague Jocelyne Landeau-Constantin. She's a dear colleague of mine, and she works for the ESA Corporate Communications Office at ESOC in Darmstadt. She's responsible for ESA corporate communication in German-speaking countries in the Czech Republic and for Scandinavia. And many of the Web 2.0 and social media projects have been initially developed at ESOC, where she works, and under her responsibility. And today, as you know, or the ones of you following these social media channels, they play an important role for us in space communication. Jocelyne is interested in interaction and in open communication. Her motto is, social media can open minds and help explore worlds of information. My dear colleague up next is Bob Jacobs. He works for NASA as the Deputy Assistant Administrator for the Office of Communications. Hope I got that right, Bob?
Close enough.
And, well, as said, he's not just a dear colleague, he's also, to me, the biggest space enthusiast I know. He's responsible for NASA Social, so that incorporates NASA Twitter, NASA blogs, and everything NASA does on social media. He's also responsible for NASA.gov, one of the world's, if not the world's leading space science portals. And he's also responsible for NASA TV, should you have seen that perhaps when you were in the US. Bob is also the man who brought the Angry Birds game to space. And he's also the one that, with the NASA Twitter account at NASA at his fingertips, he reaches 2 million followers with just 1 mouse click. So, next up, Paolo. We were talking about you already and have seen you in space. It's great you're with us. Paolo is, as Samantha, a pilot. He's also an aerospace engineer. He's also a European astronaut of Italian nationality, but he already joined ESA in 1991. Paolo was 2 times in space. 1 time we just saw, that was December 2010 to May 2011 with the ISX Expedition 2627 as a flight engineer. And before he was in space in 2006, 2007 as a space shuttle mission specialist. And the mission we just saw him in space is called Magistra. My name is Marco Trovatello. I work for DLR. DLR is the German space agency, and it's also the Aeronautics and Space Research Center of Germany. And I'm responsible for social media and online communication at DLR. So before we get into detail with tweeting and blogging from space, and not only from there, I wanted to encourage you to ask questions whenever you should feel you have one. First thing we would like to talk about now is Paolo's social media activities. And Paolo did not just share beautiful photos via Twitter. He also kept the digital public informed on what was going on the space station, about the science he was doing, about the flight engineering he was doing. And now I would like to pass over to you, Paolo, to tell us a bit about that.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. It's nice to be here in Berlin. It was nice in space, but 6 months is it's enough. I did start tweeting just before, a few weeks before my launch. This was an activity that was proposed to me by the people at ESA, the European Space Agency. They thought it would be nice if I would, share my experiences with the public. And so I started there from Baikonur in Russia, actually in Kazakhstan, where we take off, and I kept going. At the beginning, I did really answer people on my tweets, but then I actually was in space, and I was taking this picture here. I hate to be seated here. I was taking these pictures here. Now I'm throwing a curveball on the camera, guys. So I'm just trying to be on the camera. So, and I thought it would be nice to really share these pictures here. It's kind of difficult in space to really tweet because the connection, it was a year ago, it was very slow. It depends on the availability of the satellite. You have to have time. So if you want to send a tweet, a year ago, you better have at least 20 minutes, otherwise you're not going to be able to, set up the connection, talk to the control center, do all of these things. Once it's set up, you can send several, but it takes quite some time to get it going. So I would pile up all the pictures, and then in the evening, when I had a little bit of time after, when I was supposed to be already in bed, I would sit down there and tweet these images. I did see the tweets coming back, but seldom, rarely I replied to any of them directly because it was too cumbersome, at least for me. And the way I would reply to tweets is when somebody would say, hey, what about a picture of Turkey, or I don't know, somebody from Bangladesh asked a picture of Karachi. So one day I'm flying over Karachi, oh, there you go, shook. And I send a picture of Karachi, and this guy's like, wow. So this was the way I started it. And it was very interesting. I felt it really allowed me to share the beautiful view from Earth that we get from up there. I mean, it was really interesting to really read the replies of the people, the comments on Twitter or on Flickr. It was really, really nice, and really helped me giving even more meaning to the mission up there.
So how do you actually do that? Is there a special terminal? I mean, is there a dedicated laptop on the station where every astronaut tweets from, or?
Well, the security people are kind of, I would say, paranoid, but rightly so. They are afraid that somebody will come on station and actually hijack the station and drive it to Mars, something like that. I don't know where they can go. There's not that many places you can go. But they are right. I mean, they don't want anything to happen like this. So the way we tweet is that we inside the data path that comes from the emission control center, they open a small tunnel of data that are securely contained, and through that tunnel we can remote control a computer that is sitting in Houston. So if somebody would send a virus or something, it will just crash a computer at the control center in Houston. That's the way we do it. And that's why it takes a little bit of time to set up the connection from up there, and you need to have a satellite available and all these kind of things.
Okay. So, and when you don't manage to reply to all these ad mentions you get on Twitter, there's obviously somebody helping you with that?
Well, the help that I had, it was from the ground in terms of handling the pictures.
Yeah.
Because it's very difficult and cumbersome to connect all the pictures, put them in Flickr and everything. So I would have, there were a couple of people on the ground at our ESA center in Frascati in Italy that would actually physically put the picture there. But I would, tell them exactly what to put, and they will just help me. Because from the station, it would have been possible, but really, really, really cumbersome. This was a year ago. I mean, when we came back less than a year ago, we really asked NASA, the mission control, to really help us in being a little bit more capable from up there and giving us a little bit more tools and relax a little bit this strong security. I think they are working in that direction, so it will be better, I'm pretty sure, by when Samantha will be up there in space.
I see, okay. And does it already have improved, Bob, in the meantime? That was, I mean, Paolo was from December 2010 to May 2011. Has the broadband connection, or is there a broadband connection in the meantime? Has it got any faster?
I think the answer is it's continuing to get faster.
Yeah.
They're continuing to make improvements. If any of you have followed Ron Garan, who most recently has been posting, who posted a lot of images from the International Space Station, and now Dom Pettit, who's on board. He's sending a lot of still photographs, a lot of video imagery as well. So the pipeline continues to get larger, and we'll continue to expand that.
Yeah. So
I think one of the problems on station is actually time. It's the medium here. If you want to send a tweet, you get your phone and you can send a tweet in 15 seconds or 30 seconds. On station, it actually takes a little bit more time, and we are kind of busy. I mean,
yeah, but still, what I find so fascinating is that actually you do live tweet from space. What we just said is you have some assistant, and I mean nobody would have believed that you would get that you would manage all your replies as an astronaut with a strong science and engineering program on station. But the most fascinating is that you really do it, and that you select the images that you reply to people on Earth, actually requesting images from certain geographic regions. That's fascinating.
Yeah, except for the Scottish one. I got a lot of requests from Scotland, but one of the problems, you go over UK and most of the time it's cloudy.
Oh, yeah.
So there goes UK again. I don't know where it is, somewhere there. And,
okay.
And we don't go so high as an altitude, so it's much easier to get pictures like this one. This is Sudan. Khartoum is right in the middle there. So these are pictures from Central Africa you can get very easily. No clouds and very nice. So
what I like really much, or what I still like really much, is the geographic quizzes from space. Did you do that as well? I mean, did you post that that tweet pic here?
Well, it was interesting because I thought, I should engage a little bit people. So I would once in a while take pictures of strange objects on the station. Things that I would look at them and I don't know what they were unless there's an instruction manual there. And then ask people, what do you think this is? So that caught quite nice attention. And then I would post pictures. Cities. Of course, I had to guess myself where we were, so I made a couple of mistakes myself. I tweeted Paris for London or things like this.
Okay.
But this is what happened.
Okay, Paolo. Just one more question before we go on.
Sorry, because you look at these pictures, these are pretty interesting. I thought they were fascinating. Well, you're looking here, it's a desert, I think in Somalia or something like this. But the distances here, this is like 80 kilometers. So it's not a microscopic thing. It's a huge thing. It's very interesting, and that's what I thought was very fascinating. All these pictures are coming from the Magistra Flickr album, which is still available there online.
Yeah, and we recommend you follow that Flickr stream. Paolo, One more thing before we move on. In my opinion, among the most beautiful photos ever shot from space, I mean, these are already really beautiful, is the unique, how can I say, is the status the International Space Station was in with the shuttle docked, with the ATV docked, when you undocked with the Soyuz capsule and returned to Earth. You had a special task. Can you, and just, I mean, time's flying, but can you tell us in some sentences what happened and how did you do these beautiful photos?
Yes,
Maybe.
We should have one of them
Andreas
up there. But I was just smiling because I just remember one day I was trying to talk to the two people there at Esrin that were helping me, and I made a mistake at space DM. I made a mistake in the spelling, and this tweet went all over the world, and it was funny because then I start getting replies, and I mean, I'm sitting there and the whole thing goes berserk with replies, and it was really, really interesting how this happened. So there's a problem with the photos? This is a desert in Saudi Arabia, by the way, with that little thing in the middle.
Ah, okay. No,
it was a desert in Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
Oh, I see. So I'm looking at something different. That's a road right there.
Ja, genau. Mach mal. Wir scrollen einmal durch. Many more beautiful photos. So there they are. So, well, I think you can say these photos are really unique, right? Because the configuration the ISS was in, is that correct? I mean, correct me if
No,
I'm
this
wrong.
was the only opportunity that we had to get the fully completed space station and the last chance before the retirement of the space shuttle of having the space shuttle docked to the ISS and capturing that imagery.
Exactly, and that was your special job to do.
Well, I got lucky, let's put it in this way, because it's not that they put the station like that because it was me going away, but it turned out that we were leaving exactly when the shuttle was docked to the station. We were parked somewhere right here, so fairly close to the tail, and there were a lot of discussions if they would have let us actually undock with the shuttle parked there, because there are a lot of restrictions. You don't want to have a fender bender up there on the station while you go away. So we were attached here. We went away 200 meters away from station. All manually flown by the commander, and then he stopped the station. It was not us that did this, by the way. So stop at 200 meters. We had already closed all the hatches, all the suit and everything, because before leaving the station, you actually make sure that the window is closed and there is no air escaping. So you do all of that, do all the checks, then when you're sure everything is okay, you actually undock from the station and go down to Earth. Well, we detach from the station and then we open up all the hatches again, which is one of the reasons why they didn't want us to do this, because this was never done. Once you close, it's closed. So we open up all the hatches. I had to remove part of my suit, and then I had to climb past Dimitri, who was flying the spacecraft. There was not really that much space, and there were a lot of people betting that I would hit him and the controls and we would fly around the sky. But I was able to pass, go up there. There's a small window about this size, and then I started looking at the station and taking pictures. It was interesting because I had to place myself at the beginning, so I started looking at the station through this little window. And it was just magnificent. I mean, It was just a view out of this world. I mean, with the shuttle there, I've lived there for 6 months, and I never had a way to look it from the outside. At best, there is a cupola, which is here. It's a window from where we take a lot of pictures down on the Earth, but we don't see the opposite. So I was just there looking at it, and I thought it was beautiful and everything, until suddenly I said, wait a second, I'm supposed to take pictures here. And it's not that you have an infinite amount of time, because you're rotating around the Earth at 28,000 kilometers per hour. It means that if you don't do your stuff, sooner or later, actually soon, the sun is gonna come down, so the station is gonna go away. Actually, the station will be there, but you will not be able to see it anymore. So suddenly, after a minute of looking at it and kind of enjoying it, I had to, snap out of it, grab the camera, and started taking pictures, which it was interesting. What they did, we stopped at 200 meters, stayed like this, and the station then turned. So if you see another picture there, you will see that, yeah, the station turned and put the shuttle on the side as it is now. So I was just there taking pictures, you know, every 2 or 3 seconds, try not to overwhelm the camera. Once in a while, taking a little bit of a video clip, and it was actually very nice.
Wonderful. So, and I got word that it was not, I mean, the original requirement was not just to take beautiful photos, but also there were some technical requirements. Is that right, Bob? So NASA wanted these photos also for technical reasons, is that
sure,
correct?
To see the elements and how they were docked, because you had a Soyuz, a shuttle, and I believe a Progress was still docked to it as well.
Yeah, exactly. So
ATV was docked to it, so you had a lot of partner spacecraft and a lot of spacecraft on all the docking ports.
Well, this is usually when the shuttle undocks, the shuttle goes away also about 200 meters, and then it goes around 360 degrees on the station. And on board the shuttle, I've done that in my previous mission, you are actually clicking away because you want to take an external survey and figure out if there is a broken part like this one, which you cannot see from inside. So you look at it, you see the status of all the pieces. There is a lot of fragment, a lot of junk or micrometeorites that hits the station. So we'd actually do a survey like this.
Okay, thank you very much, Paolo. That were some exciting stories. Are there any questions so far? If not, we would. Oh. There is one.
See you now.
Oh yeah.
Hello.
Please. Yeah. Are there any microphones? Yeah. One's coming.
Just a quick question. What camera do you use in space?
Yes, we do. What camera we use in space? That was the question. We do use on station Nikon or Nikon D2XS. This is a relatively old camera, qualified like 4 years ago, but it's a professional camera and allows us to take good pictures. We do have lately. They qualified a D3S for the space shuttle, and they left a few of them up there. The D3 is relatively similar to the D2, but allows for pushing a little bit the sensitivity so you can take better night pictures. Because it's very difficult when you're flying at 7 kilometers per second and you try to take night pictures. If you have more sensitivity, then it's better, like this one. This is Beijing, if I'm not wrong. Actually, I'm pretty sure it's Beijing. So in order to take these pictures here, you need to use the D3S, otherwise it will not, it will come out all blurry, something like that. It's not the latest and greatest. There are newer cameras up there, but when you go in space, you need to qualify a piece of equipment, and then so this already takes a year or a year and a half. They buy like 50 of these, and they start breaking them, burning them, radiating them to see if they are subjected to radiation. The cameras, when you bring a camera on station, on a space, it lasts anywhere between 7 or 8 months, and then the sensor dies. I mean, it doesn't die, but it gets hit by radiation, and it starts showing too many dead pixels, and the picture is not good. So after a year in space, the camera needs to be thrown away. So to conclude, do I need to? Should I need to talk more?
No, I think we're done for the moment, Paolo.
To conclude, when we took those pictures from the station, we could not recover the camera. So those pictures, when we undocked, so the Russian volunteer and Nikon D3 that was on board, and the Canon video camera, we used them. Then we took out the memory cards from there, and unfortunately they got destroyed coming back from Earth when we re-entered.
Okay.
Hang on. Is there any kind of monitoring concerning your tweets, your photos, whatever you post? I mean, I think from what you said, you're completely free to tweet yourself. But is there any kind of official monitoring about what you tweet?
The straight answer is no. Okay. So if there is any monitoring or censor or something, and the answer is no. In fact, the account is yours. Mine is Astro Paolo, Astro Samantha. I mean, it's your account. It's not NASA. It's not ESA. Of course, I'm pretty sure if I tweet something stupid or something bad, they would probably give me some troubles there, but it never happened. And you are actually really free to pick the pictures you want and to tweet whatever you want.
Okay, so I would like to go on with Samantha. Actually, Paolo is one generation before you, and Samantha, your astronaut class of, I mean, sorry.
It's true.
I'm sorry. Okay, Samantha, astronaut.
But strangely enough, we were born in the same place
in the same
in
hospital in Milan.
Strangely enough, I mean, weird.
Okay, so that was some secret
handshake.
No. Exactly. Samantha, astronaut class of 2009. Before I would like to get more into deep with my questions, I would like to ask, what is the hashtag shenanigans09 about? Could you tell me, please, and the audience?
Well, Shenanigans is the name that we chose for our class, for the 2009 class, and
I looked up. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I looked it up on Wikipedia, and there was no. I mean, it were several disambiguation entries, but none which fits to your class. Anyway.
Well, nobody has picked it up on Wikipedia yet, obviously, but it just goes back to our common history, especially our first year and a half of history together when we went through basic training. A lot of the things that we remember, when we hang out together now is shenanigans that we played on each other. And so we ended up deciding to call ourselves the Shenanigans. And so initially we used the hashtag shenanigans, and then we realized that it was just way too noisy and lots of unrelated stuff showing up in the stream. And so we went for Shenanigans09.
But I think you used it the last time yesterday.
Possibly, I must have, probably retweeted a colleague who wrote a wonderful blog about.
Yeah, but does it have to do with some event you had together? I mean, was there some training event or?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go into the details because some things are just confidential, I guess.
Okay.
But again, we had a lot of fun together for a year and a half, and it involved some practical jokes being played on each other, and playing shenanigans on each other, and that's how we ended up picking this name for ourselves.
What happens during astronaut training
remains
stays
in astronaut training.
I guess so. Okay, Samantha, you and your colleagues, you make an intense use of social media. I watched you replying to almost every mention on Twitter you get. How do you do? Why do you do? And I mean, you have to spare quite a lot of time for that, right? So that means it must be important to you.
Yeah, it is. It grew important. I mean, for me, it started as something that I wanted to try. And this whole idea of being involved in social media grew slowly on me. I've been an astronaut for about 3 years now, and before that I was in the military. And the military is a completely different world. You're supposed to be very discreet with the information you have. A lot of it is confidential. So, military people don't go around and tweet about what they do, typically. But then, changing my profession, going into the world of astronauts, one of the first things that I thought about when I made that transition from being a space fan, to being somebody who is in that profession was, wait a minute, I mean, I was a fan, I was passionate about space until yesterday, and what I was craving for was information, was insider knowledge, was to know what's really going on behind the scenes. So somehow I have to find a way of getting that across. And I wasn't very much into social media back then, so maybe things that were going through my mind were like, oh, I don't know, one day I'll write a book or something like that, or I'll try to do interviews and talk to people that way as much as I can. But part of it was getting a little bit frustrated at times with interviews because the media do what they do, which is to mediate, and I wasn't. A lot of times I wasn't too happy about the way they mediate. I didn't think they were asking the interesting questions. I didn't think that what I wanted to get across was really coming across. So I thought, well, guess what? We are in the Web 2.0 age. We can talk to people directly, so I don't have to rely to journalists interviewing me and then saying what they think I said. I can actually talk to people directly and give them this behind-the-scenes view and involve them. And so I kind of started doing it. I was also a lot inspired by Paolo, of course, and also Ron, that you mentioned before, was a great inspiration because I kind of observed him really building a community of people following and being interested in the space program through him. And And so I thought I would give it a try. The reason I try to interact is because I think it is about interaction. It is about going back and forth. It's not only about broadcasting out, in my opinion, but also in hearing what other people say, what they ask, what their curiosities are. And also, there's a little bit of laziness involved. I think there's a lot to be said about crowdsourcing. There's a lot of people out there who are incredibly knowledgeable about space, and especially when it comes to facts, trivia, something that I might be interested in, or somebody might ask me. Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know everything. Nobody knows everything. But if you just tweet it out, you'll get the answer. You will get the answer because somebody out there will pick it up and will know it. So sometimes I just use it to get knowledge for myself, or to get pictures. The other day I was looking for specific pictures about, I wanted an astronaut during a spacewalk making a specific use of a tool, and I just couldn't find it. I mean, I spent about 15 minutes looking for it, and I'm like, guess what? I mean, I'll just ask on Twitter for one, and sure enough, somebody sent me one. So
you got the reply, actually?
I did, yeah. I got it. Within about a couple of hours, somebody found it. Yeah, people are incredible. And I do post quizzes as well, and I'm amazed that, the other day I tried to do a hard one, because I had posted several quizzes, and I had got several good answers within minutes. So I'm like, okay, guys, you're obviously under-challenged. I'm going to give you a really difficult one. So I post this picture of myself holding in my hand a piece of hardware from the space station, which doesn't tell you anything. Just by looking at it, it could be anything. And the only tip that I gave is like, there's a bunch of those on the interior of the space station. You can see them on pictures, but it's like a small detail. I mean,
I saw that, and I haven't had a clue at all.
Well, sure enough, there is a person who went and scavenged all the pictures of the interior of the space station until he found it, and within a couple of hours, I had the answer. So
incredible.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and you're, as Paolo, you're a very good photographer as well. So you just showed me, I think you sent some tweets right here from Republica already, and some photos you took in Berlin. Is that a bit of a preparation for the job? I mean, your how can I call it, the moonlight job that you have to do on the space station? Actually, what you guys do is you do all that in your spare time, right? Because you're...
Some of it is tasked, but a lot of it is just whatever you want to do.
On the station, I mean, of course, but on the station you end up doing, I ended up doing what I was supposed to sleep, so.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and speaking about sleeping, I mean, is it hard to go to sleep when you have always that beautiful view or the possibility to go to the cupola?
Well, if you tweet long enough, you're so tired, then eventually you go to sleep very quick. But no, I would say that we are pretty tired, and it's kind of strange to sleep in 0G because you're kind of floating, or your head down like a vampire or something like that. But you get used after a couple of days, and it's okay. It's actually, it's one of the best sleep I had. Nothing hurts when you wake up because you cannot, sometimes you wake up and your arm is kind of doesn't happen there because you cannot squeeze it. So
that sounds good, and we would love to read about that when you're in space, Samantha. Jocelyne, I mean, I just said what was probably not that correct. Astronauts do it in their space-time. It's obvious that we communication people, we love them to tweet because they share their experience in space with the digital public. So could you tell me a bit about the communication strategy behind why do we love those astronauts and not just astronauts to tweet? I mean, obviously we are speaking a lot about tweeting astronauts, but there's much more to blog. We didn't speak about your blog already, Samantha. You write beautiful and very funny articles, I think, and I warmly recommend the astronauts blog. But Jocelyne, I mean, why do we love them to do it?
Because they're very good at it, I must say. It's a pleasure to have them, twittering and using social media in general. When you are in an organization like ESA or NASA, there are things that you can do without authorization, very little. But you also have things that you can do a bit more freely. And I think it's part of, social media, using social media is very important for the astronauts who started, but also for a lot of scientists and a lot of engineers. If you are working in space for space, it's not something like, delivering milk or going to the post office every day. It's something very special. And I think among all these people working, for space or in space, you have hardly anybody who is completely neutral. You go there, you spend some nights, not only you know, at your desk because you have to write a report, which is pretty boring and happens to anybody, even working for bank, you know, for instance. But you also spend your nights, you know, because there's a launch. And I'm working at the control center of ESA in Darmstadt. And you have these incredible scenes of people, you know, at their desk. They've been working for 3 years, rehearsing, training as well, just as the astronauts do, you know, for 6 months. And they know every bit, every single thing, you know, of the satellite. And at one point, you know, you get the signal. And I think it's a feeling, you have a bit of adrenaline, you know, going through your blood, just as the astronauts have it, you know, when they are floating all of a sudden, you know. It's something very, very special. And it's probably one of the motivations that we all have when we initiate social media activities. It is that we want other people to share. Now, if you are in charge of communication, you know, basically you think, how am I going to read, you know, my target, my public, and you want to be extremely rational. But I would say, you know, social media is something where you learn by doing. I think all companies, if you read things, you know, articles written by Daimler-Benz, okay, they say, we tried it. And this is what we did, you know, some years ago. Actually, I remember one of the first things that we did was with Thomas Reiter. When Thomas, you know, was flying, we started a blog, you know, actually together with DLR.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's
I remember.
a long time cooperations, and it was working. And then we got to missions like the mission Rosetta, to where we're going to land on a comet. I mean, you have a satellite which is flying around a comet. It's on its way. It has traveled something like 3 billion kilometers. I mean, an incredible amount of kilometers. So you've had all these people, you know, and they have been waiting not 6 months, not 2 years. They have been waiting 14 years altogether, between 11 years and 14 years, depending on where you take the mission. And they want to share it. So now you can share it by sending one picture, and some media will take it. And this is also very, very important, this aspect. It is important to have, you know, a long article with explanation, but it's also very important to share immediately with a completely different public. And I think, you know, going social media is the most direct link that you can establish with the public, in general, a younger public than we've had up to now. It's also very important, you know, as a public agency, to establish a link with your taxpayers.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, that's, of course, it's my viewpoint as well. And you mentioned we started in Europe in around about summer of 2006, when Thomas Reiter started on his mission. That was our very first blog we did. And we had no idea of Twitter. I'm not sure if they have been founded by that already. That was 2007, I guess. And Bob, it's great to have you here, and obviously many social media channels, if not all, probably. I mean, the first ones, they started in the United States. And I think NASA has been a very early adopter. So could you tell us when you started with at NASA with the first followers?
The agency itself started full-time in November 2008, which was still fairly new in the Twitterverse, if you allow me to use that word. And it really started a little bit before that with Mars Phoenix, a mission by the Jet Propulsion Lab, NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab in Pasadena. And I believe that was in the spring of 2008, March, April, that time frame. And Veronica McGregor, one of the persons in charge of communications at the time, did something unique in that the spacecraft was tweeting in the first person. You know, I was doing this, I made that, I saw that. And it got a lot of attention on what was then just considered a new microblogging site called Twitter. And everyone was excited when it reached 40,000 followers well into the mission. And at the same time, we were seeing that, and as other people have pointed out, that the traditional media wasn't covering space as much anymore. And you had all these emerging technologies that allowed us the capability to interact directly with you in ways that we hadn't before, and engage you in a conversation in ways that traditional media don't allow us to do. So we dove headlong into it, not really knowing how to do it, but knowing that this was the place to be. And I remember not too long ago, one of the senior managers said, well, I don't understand why we're on Facebook. And I was like, and I think if I checked at the numbers at the time, if Facebook was a nation, it'd be the world's 3rd largest. Why wouldn't we want to be in that community? And these are just communities that I think that as communicators we want to be in, not only to have a presence, but to also engage in conversations with you to get an idea of what you like and what you don't like and what we can do better. You know, a lot of times people in communications get accused of being salespeople or somehow we're flacks and that sort of thing. And I really look at our job, you know, my job isn't to sell you anything. My job, I see it, is to clean the windows, to give you a better view of the space programs that you're investing in. They're yours. They're not ours. So anything that we can employ that allows you to be a part of that mission, we're interested in. And social media is another tool along those lines.
Yeah, and I mean, you're tweeting a lot yourself as
Yes.
at BN Jacobs. We will see all the Twitter accounts of my colleagues here on the very last slide. When did you yourself start tweeting?
Shortly before we started at NASA. I tend to jump into it personally to take it out for a test drive, to see how it works, what we can do with it, what we can't do with it. So people who follow me on Facebook, for example, I'm Robert Jacobs on Facebook. Most of what I post is work-related. It's NASA material because I was trying to get an idea of you know, how the agency would be able to use it. Plus, I don't think many of you care when I walk my dog or something. So, you know, some of the things that people post on social media.
And I mean, I once heard from Stephanie Schierholz, one of your former colleagues, that there's quite a team behind at NASA.
Yes, there is now, and it's not any one individual. We encourage all of the communicators, all the people who speak publicly to get involved in it. At the last check, a little over 2 million followers. It's impossible for one person to respond to all the questions. In fact, it's difficult for as many people who do post to at NASA to respond, but we try to get to as many as we can.
Yeah, so what I find interesting is that it has, nevertheless, it doesn't lack editorial consistency. It always seems also with at ESA, with at DLRDE, there is some managing social media experts behind, even if it's teams of dozens of people tweeting, you see that somebody sort of keeps the tweets in line. So, and they, what's even more important, that they are relevant to me. So that's when I want US-American space news, I go to at NASA. When I want European space news, I go to at ESA, or German-oriented one to at DLRDE. So that's really important, I think. And Bob, one more question. We see a photo of the first European space tweet up here. And you just mentioned Veronica McGregor, who, by the way, that was something I wanted to add. We, in Europe, for us, it's still a bit difficult to do first-person mission tweeting, which I find fantastic. But, I mean, we should... I mean, there is a colleague of ours at DLR in Cologne, and actually he's the person behind at Philae 2014, which is the European consortium built and DLR-led Philae lander for the Rosetta mission. And he tweets in first person, so it's not that we do not do it, but I find this is quite an encouraging idea for us here in Europe, and I think even it was honored with the Shorty Awards. Is that right? Or was it Mars Phoenix or another mission of
yes,
NASA JPL-1?
Won a Shorty Award, and Doug Wheelock got one as well not too long ago.
Yeah,
and at NASA this past year.
So,
not that I'm doing any shameless
You could do us a favor and bring these Shorty and Webby and all these awards over to Europe. And I mean, we can take part, actually, not in the Webby, I think, but anyway, we need something like that.
But you brought up one important point, and that was Veronica and the team at JPL did a really good job of finding a voice for Mars Phoenix. And it's not something that we try to push. We're not, you know, a lot of people have tried to replicate the first-person mission tweeting, some more successful than others. And for all of you out there, I mean, you know, some of the people who are thought leaders in the various social media, you know, they weren't somehow anointed to that position. They found their voice. They connected with an audience in a way that attracted attention. And I think that's the challenge for anyone who's doing it, is to find the voice, find what comes natural. Personally, I don't pull off the first person thing well in talking about the missions. I play it very straight. What I encourage our people to do when they're engaged in social media is, be themselves, be humorous, show that you have a personality. Try to answer questions, make them relevant, and try to give people more information. Let them dig deeper into NASA content. Share an image, share a link on a website. It's very rare on our social media postings that you'll get just a factoid or a statement. We want to provide people ways to dig in deeper into the experience. And as I said before, it's so important to engage, and that's where the tweet-ups and now what we call NASA socials come into play, because it was a way to expand the experience of a mission event beyond what traditionally had been covered by the media, and engage all of you as storytellers as a way to help get the information out.
Yeah, so what's for us also very important is the international cooperation, and that's what connects us. This is why we are sitting here. And the Space Tweet Up as a new format for social media, for a mix of social media and event communication, is actually something which was invented by NASA or NASA GPL as well. You're intensely doing that. If I count correctly, you do a Tweet Up basically every month or so. There are like 10 a year.
Yeah, we've done 34 or 35 at present and have at least 2 more scheduled. Like I said, we recently changed the name from Tweet Up to Social because we kind of felt that it was medium specific, and people on Google Plus and Facebook felt left out, so we wanted to make sure that we included all the social sites. And it's just a way to have more people experience the missions and the activities, and for them to share their feelings. And just like what each of you are doing now, is you're observing, you're making comments, you're posting and sharing information with your friends, who then, if they find it interesting, will share it. And that's the whole purpose, is to, again, find ways to get you involved in space exploration.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I would have questions, to take questions. That was what I wanted to say. Are there any more questions by you, our dear audience?
Don't be shy.
Okay, I don't see any, and I think we more or less have reached the end of our panel, correct? So there's 5 minutes left. Wonderful. What I would like to ask is, or what I would like to tell is that I would like to connect once again to the tweet-ups. You mentioned there have been 35 by NASA, and we are, in Europe, we're quite proud to have arrived at number 5 or 6. Jocelyne, how well is that going for us? Is that more or less the same success story NASA has with, like, we see here with the NASA tweet up, yeah, that's ours. Can we go back one slide again, please? NASA usually credits like 100 followers or sometimes even more, depending on the site. We've arrived with quite a number of space trips accredited. So are there any upcoming events, Jocelyne? As I know, there might be some.
Well, there will be more, definitely. I mean, it was a big success last year, in September, when we did the first one with DLR and with the support of NASA. It was really very, very good. Then we did another one for something completely different. It was not an open public event. It was for the docking of ATV-3. It was quite a challenge, because this time, since we are living in Europe, we had to do it in 2 languages. We had to do it in French and English this time. But it was, again, very successful, very different, because we realized that gradually we built also a community of interested people who want to share. And then what is very, very interesting is that we see a very close relationship between the number of people participating in tweet-ups. Then they go and watch, the websites of DLR, of NASA, of ESA, there's a very close connection, which means that either you can do Twitter, you can do social media, you know, just to open a door, as you said, or clean the window. I think that was a very nice picture. And there are so many people who are so shy, they don't want to show, I don't know anything about that. So you clean the window, you see something nice, which is one of the picture taken by Paolo or something else, and then you go further. And going further is exactly what we need. We need curious people. We don't need people, you know, who in everywhere in the world who do not know anything and do not do not dare asking. We need citizens, you know, who are participating, you know, in science, who are participating in social life. So we will do more, definitely. I think we will do more. Maybe this year for SWARM, there's a new mission in Earth observation. Climate, for instance, is something that interests everybody. You know, are we going to have rain tomorrow? Are we going to have to change our living habit? And I think this is very important to have people participating and telling us also their opinion. I mean, it's a bi-directional tool, and this is probably the best bi-directional tool that we can have for the moment. If the tool changes tomorrow, we will adapt to the tool. But we are entering into what you call conversation. And we are open to conversation. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's again absolutely my point of view. Thanks to all of you very much for being here. It was a pleasure. I would like to ask Andreas to put on the very last slide so you can see the Twitter accounts of all the panelists here. That was Astro Samantha to the far left. Next to her is @BN Jacobs. Then there is @JL Const for Jocelyne Landeau-Constantin. It's me, and it's our dear assistant Andreas Schepers. Thank you very much for being the slide jockey. That was the panel tweeting from space for the digital public. Thank you.